Welcome, welcome. This is My Recovery, part of the Much Love family. My name is David, and I'm an addict. Today's episode will be a powerful one. We have a man whose message is strong, and he gives it without sugarcoating it, without fluff. He does it clearly and truthfully. He is someone I hold in high regard and someone that has truly had an impact on my recovery. Let's listen to his story, his experience, strength, and hope. My friend Nate.
My name is Nate, and I'm an addict. What a wonderful life that I live today because of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm here. I'm gonna tell you my story. Coming up as a kid, I realized that I had a whole lot of tendencies as a child before I picked up my first drug. I remember my mom used to send me to the store, and since we was poor, I would like steal the kerosene and keep the money because I would lie. I remember I was like be going to Speakeasy or the little liquor house in the neighborhood, and I would remember getting it from my mom because the guy knew my mom. He would give it to me as a little kid, and I would go home, and the first thing I would do, I would like to lick the wrapper of the Four Roses wine, alcohol, or whatever it was, and I came from a family, man, that, two by the foot, two by the headboard, me and my sisters and my brother. But we was happy. My mom was an alcoholic. And as I look back in my life, my mom was an alcoholic, and mom did what alcoholic did. She drank. And along with that came arguments between her and my stepfather, and fights and various things that went on in an alcohol-fueled environment, and that led to her demise. She wound up having a brain stroke from drinking. I don't know. I was a 12-year-old kid, so I really don't know the details of all that went on about that, and she wound up passing when I was 12, from a brain stroke, as I said, and I had to grow up real quick. I lost my childhood. At times, I really want to go back and live a childhood all over again, but I can't. And through the years, I've looked for women in my life to replace my mom, but I've never found that. So in doing that, I always seem to have more than one woman because, see, drugs was a disease. I mean, a part of my problem, but I realized that I had other issues. I never could have more, just one of anything. I had to have more than one woman. I lied because I said my mom was the best mom. I had to protect myself and from who I was, and I had to bring about this hard exterior because the hard exterior kept people away from me. And that was my defense mechanism for not letting people get close to me, and this introspection is only through working the steps. And in the program of Narcotics Anonymous, I was able to look at these things and realize those things that went on in my life. And those things made me who I am today. The men in my life at that time always had more than one woman, or they cheated on the women that they were with. So I thought that was a cool thing, so and I felt like if I had a lot of girlfriends, everybody would like me. So that's what I did. And I realized that doing that, I always ran away from me. I never dealt with the emotional part of my aspect of my life. And because if one left me, I always had somebody else. I never dealt with the pain, the abandonment, the separation, or just people just leaving me out of my life. So I came up, on and, going to school, and I joined the football team, and all the guys on the football team, they got high. And remember my first experience on really getting high, they took us out to this other high school and went to this party, and I smoked weed for the first time, and I drank some Bush Bavarian beer. Looking back, I realized that I was an addict because they had to take me home that first night. I couldn't even stay to the dance because I drank more than anybody else. And so, and just to skip a little bit farther past that, I remember when I was playing football, but I always wanted to hang with, we had a group of guys and we all hung together and they called us the players. Mostly because of a dance group, not because of everybody was a player. And we all hung together and we had a real tight relationship with one another. And they became my family because I really didn't have nobody but my brother. My two sisters had moved to New Jersey at that particular point in time, and it was just me and my brother against all odds. And during that, one night, this girl who was from California in the dance group, the player, she was older than all of us, and she was from California, and she had some cocaine. So we all snorted cocaine for the first time around about 17, and right after that, the next day we said that we was going to all meet at the gym so we could run it off. But at that particular point in time, nobody showed up but me and my brother. And there was this other group of guys who wanted to be like us or hated us for some particular reason, for whatever it was, I don't know. Well, let me back up a little while. Let me back up for a minute. Because even though I was a high school football star, I hung with the guys and I could get in the games free after I graduated, but I was with the guys and we used to always hit the fence and get into the games because nobody had no money. And after one of the games, we started these fights. It was kind of like where I grew up. It was just like a white and black thing, and if the white guys caught you in their neighborhood, they beat you up, and we caught them in our neighborhoods, we beat them up. So we had these fights after these games, and then this other high school threatened us not to come to the next game. Of course, nobody threatened RHS, and so we went to the next game at Doak Campbell Stadium. And after that game, we fought everybody we seen, every white person we seen, after the game. And they launched an investigation, and I wound up with 6 robberies and 4 aggravated batteries. And I was facing like 140 some odd years in prison. And it all stemmed from getting high and drinking and stuff like that. And so move forward back what I was just talking about the first time snorting cocaine. Me and my brother went to the gym to run it off, and one of the guys who was there with his group of guys that he hung with, but he has turned state evidence against us, stating that he's seen everything and he was, but he didn't. But anyway, during the basketball game, him and my brother got into a little skirmish, and I broke that up. And later on in the game, I was driving to the basket to do a layup, and he hit me. And my brother hit him. And this was December 10th, 1976. I'll never forget it. And when my brother hit him, he spun around and fell on the back of his head, and he died Christmas Day, 1976. There go drugs again in my life. But I still could not see that drugs was a major roadblock to the life that I wanted to live because, at that time I was attending Florida A&M University, and just so happened on my 18th birthday, I got arrested on Florida A&M campus. And I remember me and my brother was smoking a joint going to school that morning. And but they said when they arrested me that I had 1 joint in my briefcase, and which I didn't, but that's a whole nother story. And So I got charged with possession of marijuana. And of course, they tried to give me all those charges. But, it was just like youth eyewitness kills, youth gang killed state eyewitness before testifying in court. And it was a big thing. And everybody thought that me and my brother was the bad guys, but they didn't realize that their kids, was right along with us in that whole endeavor. And so anyway, they wound up getting me a year in the county jail for one joint because the judge said that college students was not going to run his city. I don't understand that. We never have understood that. But so in a sense, they dropped all the other charges because they had no eyewitness or any testimony to say that we did that. And so I wound up serving like 4 months because I went back and it got time reduced. And I remember that the guy who just so happened that died, his family stayed about 2 blocks from us, and it was just only me and my brother, family wise. And our blood is thicker than water. And regardless of what the court say, they it was more than that. So we decided that we were going to move to New Jersey, where our sisters was. So we wanted to move to New Jersey. Another geographical relocation. And I wound up going to New Jersey, and I did what I always did. I wound up getting involved in the marijuana business, selling and getting high and everything that went along with it. And eventually graduated to crack cocaine. Well, not crack. At first, it was like freebasing. And at first, when I first did, I didn't like it. And but then I had a guy, but this guy stayed right across the street from me. He was a big cocaine dealer, and he's always tried to invite me over. He used to come buy weed from us, but I really wasn't interested in that. First time I went over, I didn't like it. Then I guess about a month or so went by, and I went back over, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the drug of my choice, and my life spiraled out of control from that point on. I had various different jobs, but one of them was, I remember most of all, was I was a correction officer for the state of New Jersey, and I wind up on Thursday nights. All the guys who, do affirmative action, we all got jobs at the prisons. And we used to always get together on Thursday nights and all get high because we got paid on Thursdays. And I worked at 11 to 7 shift, and that wasn't a good thing. And because I was get high all day and try to go to work from 11 to 7 at night. And I remember this one incident. This guy came in. I let him on the tier, and then he had the key to let me in to go down and do the count. And I went down to do the count, and I pushed the button, and I sat down and fell asleep. At this particular point in time, inmates was killing prison guards in New Jersey at that time. And by the grace of God, it just wasn't my time. So after that, internal affairs got involved in this and that, and some other things came about where I had lied about a situation where I got arrested for buying some weed one day, and I used my brother's name. And they came back, and they told me to resign if they was going to fire me. So I resigned. Now, mind you, by me giving my brother's name, that deterred my brother from being a correction officer because he had a possession charge on his record. And that bothered me for a long time. It still bothers me today that I did that. But, through the disease of addiction, I was always had an angle. I always had to be hip, slick, and cool. I always thought I was 1 foot ahead of everybody else, but wound up not being 1 foot ahead of everybody else. I was always one step backwards. And so the drugs spiraled out of control. I wind up going through that scenario, what we hear about in life, like be careful on the people that you um, step on the way up, because them same people you're gonna see on the way back down. I remember when from being that I thought um, middle class to wanting to be in no class. Um, Disease took me from that high spot to being homeless. And I remember my first time that when I lost everything. I remember sleeping outside behind this um, florist shop, like 20, 30 degrees at night, cold as hell. But that was not a deterrent from stop getting high. I remember in New Jersey at that time, going to detox, you had to say you was an alcoholic. You couldn't say that you was an addict. And I tried the various attempts at that. I thought I was hopeless. I thought I would never be able to stop using crack cocaine. I remember I tried the crazy route, scratching my wrist, trying to get into detox again because I was saying that I was crazy. Just didn't see any way out. I had no hope. But it just came to the point after using for so many years, man. I found out about this place called vocational rehabilitation, and I went and talked to the individual, and they told me they would put me in a hotel room until a bed became available at this treatment center, and it was up in the mountains of Pennsylvania, and I made that decision to leave, and I went to this treatment center. I didn't tell my brother I was going. I told a stepbrother of mine that I was going. I'm quite sure he probably relayed that information to my brother. But I went there, and I decided not to go back to Trenton, New Jersey. I stayed in Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. Land that time forgot. A whole lot of addicts from big cities in a city that had a fish pond in the middle of the city and no traffic lights. And I was green as a blade of grass, because the other addicts who was there were like the heroin addicts, who was more in Narcotics Anonymous at that time. They thought we was crazy as crack addicts because they couldn't understand us and we really couldn't understand them. So it was a clash. And but while I was there, at this we had a guy's house, and just like 25 feet next door was the girl's house. So it was just like fraternity row. There was no recovery. We was just biding time, no direction. Come to find out that the guy who was running the place was using heroin. Some of the guys who was heroin at, they was using heroin. And the place wound up getting disbanded. So I wound up moving to Altoona, Pennsylvania. And I was involved with this relationship with this girl at that time, man. And I found out that she had did some craziness. And, that's why, the disease of addiction is a feeling disease also. And I remember she supposedly had messed with this guy. So I wind up leaving Altoona, Pennsylvania, going back to Trenton, New Jersey, not to stay, with great intentions to go and see my brother. But when I got off the train, I did what an addict did. I had a pocket full of money, the first Michael Jordan Air Jordan jacket, a red satin jacket. I'll tell you more about that. And I wound up spending all the money that I had, never seen my brother, and I sold the Michael Jordan jacket. I got high by any means necessary. And so I wound up getting on the train with no money, trying to get back to Altoona, Pennsylvania. And just so happened this lady that I knew I had met who was counseling, gave some counseling. She wound up sending me the money, and I came back to Altoona, Pennsylvania. But I had already unleashed that beast again, like to say, unlock that 800-pound gorilla. And I showed everybody in Altoona, Pennsylvania how to cook up crack cocaine. from cocaine, crazy shit. And I wound up messing over a whole lot of people. Mostly all I messed over myself. And I left Altoona, Pennsylvania on as an escape because the guy I was working for at that particular time, he gave me an advance of some money, and I wind up, you know what I did? I messed the money up, getting high, and I had no money to pay the place that I was living. So, but somehow or another, I scrounged up enough money to get a bus ticket to Florida. And lo and behold, did I know that I was going to Little Peru when I got back to Florida. There was crack everywhere. I need to have a jacket of all the cities that I went to, that I survived. It's like the war on drugs, what I mean? I survived all those cities because, by the grace of God, I didn't die, but I got into some crazy situations, man, that I don't see how I got out of them. So there was always a God looking after me, like footprints in the sand. He carried me when I couldn't carry myself. So I went from being a prison caught in the state of Florida, coming to Florida, being homeless, and doing a lot of crimes, and wound up going to prison in the state of Florida. All from the disease of addiction, all from using drugs, But you can, just like we say in Narcotics Anonymous, we can't tell you when you're an addict. You got to admit that you're an addict. And I definitely was an addict. And I did what addict did, and I got high by any means necessary. I wound up going to prison, got out, because when I was in prison, everybody said that they sold packs of dope and this and that, but when we got released, everybody was packing the stem. They weren't selling the packs. They was lying. Prison is a whole nother environment. One that I won't wish on anybody. But I wound up getting out, getting into this work release center in Tampa, because I decided not to go back to Tallahassee. Once again, tried geographical relocation, but I took me with me. And I remember being at this treatment center here in Florida. Halfway house in Florida, and in Tampa. And it was like 2 weeks before I got getting ready to get released. I thought it was a great idea to leave my job to go back to the facility to sign my release papers. But I thought it was a great idea to go by Central Park to get me a 20 to celebrate. Maybe about 24 hours later, I wind up with my dad taking me back to the treatment center, the work release center. And they immediately sent me to jail. And then the next morning, I was back at Lake Butler. Then, I did that little time and I got back out again and stopped by Tallahassee, because that's where the bus from all the prisons, they stopped at Tallahassee to send you to various parts of Florida if you was in the Panhandle. And I got with this guy that I used to get high with. We got high, ran out of money, came with a crazy idea of how we're going to get some money. Walmart had just opened up. So I thought it was a great idea to go in Walmart, snatch these people's stuff, and run out the store. I snatched the stuff, ran out the store. People ran behind me. The guy who I was riding with pulled off and left me. So within 24 hours after I got out of prison, I was right back in the county jail. Then I got out of the county jail, got out of that situation, came on back down to Tampa again, and continued doing what I was doing. And I wound up going back to prison again. You know, when they back in those days when CRD and press, provisional release, and all that was out, you really didn't do that much time. You just go and do a few months for a year, and you'd be right back out with no direction. They really didn't care at that time about how an addict any treatment or anything of that nature. Narcotics Anonymous meeting at that particular time in the institutions was a joke. So once again, I got back out and I gave him that hot $100 once again, and I did what addict did. You know, came out of prison wearing a 40 waist pants, and by the time the sun come up from getting hot so much, the pants didn't fit no more. But I was back to running weight, you know, and I got high by any means necessary, man. You know, when you think that you're at the bottom of or lowest you can go, there's always a trap door. You know, and I wind up falling farther and farther and farther down that road. You know, I wind up being homeless once again, sleeping up under the bridge, eating at the dumpsters, sleeping in abandoned buildings, weighing 145 pounds soaking wet. Thought that looked good. You know, that's why, you know, in Narcotics Anonymous, we say we're the eyes and ears of each other. And because we can see what in the individual can see for themselves. And I'm grateful for that because that's how I learned to grow up in this process. Because people would tell me what they seen in me. You know, early on, I used to say, man, you need to worry about yourself. Don't worry about me. But these people took time to care about me, to tell me what they seen about me. And that's the only way I was able to change. You know, but anyway, let me continue the story. So I wind up getting back out. And within a year, I had three possession charges, one with intent to deliver, and then another one with intent to deliver and sales to an undercover agent, a police officer, within an 8-month period. You know, I remember going to the county jail this time and I was tired, you know, and I wanted something different. And I was tired of them just sending me to prison, getting back with everybody, you know, and everybody was doing the same thing. Go back and you see the same people that you was in there with before. And I wanted to break that cycle, but I didn't know how to break that cycle. But my introduction to Narcotics Anonymous, the seed had been planted many years ago, and I knew that there was a better way, but I was just trying to figure out how could I possibly do it. And I went, and I was in county jail this time, and I wrote every judge in Hillsborough County to let me get into the drug program. They said no. But the God of my understanding looked out after me. You know, he gave me an opportunity. This judge gave me an opportunity to go to this therapeutic community called Daytop. And at that particular moment, after I'd been sitting in the county jail for about 6 or 7 months, I remember asking the guy right beside me who used to get high with me, what did he think I should do? See, my thought process wasn't even right then. After being clean for 7 months in jail. But anyway, I took the opportunity to go to the therapeutic community and it changed my life. It was in the hills of Ocala. And I'll never forget that place. That's where I stopped running for myself. That's when I stopped being afraid of who I was and accepted who I was. That's when I admitted that I was an addict and I could not use dope no more. Now, mind you, I had a whole lot of character defects and shortcomings. So it was like 115 men and maybe about 40 women. And they said no sex. It was an 18-month program, right? Yeah, a bunch of addicts together and nobody can do that. So anyway, I was seeking feelings from this individual girl, and they found out, and Eventually, I wound up getting kicked out. But I didn't run. See, there was nothing to stop me from going down that hill and hitting the highway and going back out and continue to run. I stayed and I waited for Marion County to come get me to their jail, and then Hillsborough came and got me from Marion County and brought me back to Hillsborough County. But while I was at this therapeutic community, when I told you I was seeking the feelings from the girl, I found out that my brother died. And my brother was one of the main reasons for me going to treatment, because I wanted to establish that relationship back with him. You know, God got a sense of humor, or things happen that I have no explanation about why. You know, my brother didn't get high anymore. Matter of fact, I used to be his idol. He wanted to be my idol. And, but he wanted to die playing basketball. It's kind of like, I can never understand that about this guy that died back in 1976 from having a fight on the basketball court. My brother wound up dying on the basketball court from having a heart attack, playing basketball. I questioned that for a long period of time. Why? You know, but when I was at that therapeutic community, when I heard that, you know, and it was the first time that I really paid attention to the birds and the sunsets and the sunrise. And because at that particular time, I was on a learning experience in the compost pit, shoveling compost from one pit to the other for about a month. That was a great learning experience for me. I couldn't see it then, but it built character in me. Everything at that program was designed to give you power and then strip it away from you, see how you react. You know, whether you would run, whether you would face yourself, and I faced myself. I didn't run. But anyway, by the time when I got back to Hillsborough County, with my brother passing, he had left me some money. And I remember this guy telling me on the way back to the jail from the court one day, he said, "Man, I know an attorney that would represent you. And then when you get your money, she would get her money." So I tried that. See, everything was set up for me. All I had to do was follow directions. And because when I first met up with her, she told me I can get you in this outpatient treatment center. But I know that me being who I was, if I had all that money and I got into the outpatient treatment center, I was going to do the same thing all over again. So I decided to go into this another treatment center, a 6-month treatment center. And I went, and man, it was like night and day from the treatment center that I came from to the one I was at. It was like everybody wanted to run around hollering D block, and wasn't nobody serious about recovery. And I remember this counselor, he said that he wanted me to get in the red chair. Mind you, not because of something that I did wrong. He just wanted people to tell me about me. I think he seen something in me that I didn't see in myself. And that was an awakening. When people tell you something about yourself and you can't do nothing back to them, no matter how or what they say. So actually I wound up completing that program. But while I was at that program, I wound up coming in one day, and there was this electrical company inside the place, and they was hiring. So I went in, and they hired me, and that was another great decision. See, things were lining up for me. I just couldn't understand how they were lining up, but they was lining up for me for a reason, because there was a God looking after me when I couldn't look after myself. And today I run my own electrical company. Amazing, right? When you take the use of drugs out the way, and the world opened up to you, you know. But while I was working for that company, They laid me off twice, and I was tired of that, man. I had bought a home, and I couldn't call the mortgage company and tell them I couldn't make no payment to them because the people that laid me off, or I was waiting on the unemployment check, and I just got tired of that. So I went into business for myself. You know, it's like fear. Fuck everything and run, or face everything and recover. I chose to face everything and recover. And I prayed, man, and I worked hard. While other people was sleeping, I was, you know, crawling up underneath somebody's house or crawling through an attic and putting things together because I wanted something. I wanted something different than what I had. I wanted to make a life for myself, but and I know things wasn't going to be easy, and they weren't. But when I got out of the second treatment center, man, I got involved in Narcotics Anonymous, and I got in. I became a member of this home group called Radical Recovery in Tampa, and that's still my home group today. But when I first came around, man, there was guys that used to tell me things, pull me to the side, cared enough about me, like I said, to tell me about me. And I finally opened up to the how of the fellowship, the honesty, the open-mindedness, and the willingness. And I started working on me and started taking a look at why I kept turning right instead of turning left, or why I kept turning left instead of turning right, why I kept running into walls, why I kept doing the same stupid shit over and over again, expecting different results. But I kept getting the same results. Jails and institutions. They told me that I had to buy into the program of Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous is a way of life instead of something that you just come to get my paper signed. So I got in the back pocket of some guys, man, and I let them guide me and let them show me the way. Best decision I made is to get back into the program of Narcotics Anonymous and live this way of life. Since I've been in the program, man, there's so much death in my family, man. I'm the oldest surviving member of my family. Mom gone, dad gone, brother gone, sister gone, stepbrothers gone, nephews and gone. And I get lonely sometimes, even though I know a lot of people in the program of Narcotics Anonymous, I'm still that loner. I realized that when my brother left, I felt like a part of me went with him. A lot of times I don't feel like I should have the things that I have because my brother should have had those things, At one point in time, I want to barter with God to give me my brother back. But that ain't how it goes. I don't know nobody who died that come back, And me using wasn't going to bring him back neither. I realized that. So, man, I kept struggling, kept falling on my knees, but the guys in the fellowship would pull me back up and help me through situations. They helped me with stuff like paying their arrears and child support, even though my daughter's mom wasn't doing anything with the money for my child. They told me, don't worry about that, and they just pay. Do your part. Do what you're supposed to do. And I did that. So I got involved with H&I early on, got involved in some subcommittees, Got involved with doing service work on the regional level as well as the area level. And it changed my life. Because I started caring about other people more than I cared about myself. Started trying to be a part of something instead of being just a me type situation. Decided to let God of my understanding guide my life instead of me trying to guide my life. I'm not God, so I think I let him. And when I did that, man, my life, when I stopped using drugs, man, it stopped working on me. See, it's more than just about stop using. It's about working on yourself and dealing with the issues that's within. See, because the things that I seek are not outside of me. They were inside of me. The answers that I seek was inside of me. I had to stop putting my stock in uh, what people perceived of me and start accepting me for who I was. Because as I was telling you earlier, I ran away from me all my life. And I'm grateful that I did that. And I got a sponsor, got involved in doing step work, and I met a lot of people along this journey. And my idols are the ones that have went on to the bitter ends, and got their eternal medallion at the end. I have this thing about people dying in the fellowship. I'll go to a funeral, my personal belief, I'll go to a funeral if a person went on to the bitter ends and got their eternal medallion. But I have a problem with going to funerals of people who die from the heart disease because it goes against everything that I believe in today. I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but that's just my belief. That's just how I feel. My life today, man, is beyond my wildest dreams. And, I never would have believed that an addict like me, who wouldn't pay $50 for a room because I thought that would interfere with my get high, and for all the things that I went through, to buying a home, paying off the house. See, I'm the first person in my family that had bought a home. I mean, paid off the home. It always amused me when people say I'm a homeowner. But if you pay in the bank, you ain't no homeowner. You're in the bank, own the home together. I don't know why they got that question there on the application. Do you own a home? Do you rent a home? But if you rent it from the bank, you don't own it. So I'm proud of that, man. I know my mom and my brother and my dad and all of them would be proud of me. I actually believe that they're looking over me from wherever they are, heaven or no one really truly knows. So it's a wonderful life to have today, man, by surrendering. The only way you can get Narcotics Anonymous, the way of life, is you got to surrender to win. And I ain't know how to surrender. I thought surrender would mean that I was weak. I was soft. But it's okay to surrender. It's okay to be hip, to be square. I met a lot of wonderful people since I've been here, man. And a lot of guys that I look up to. I don't put nobody in the pedestal on Narcotics Anonymous. See, because they told me that ain't nothing that they were doing that I couldn't do. So take the inside journey. Take a look at yourself. Find out about yourself and, and buy a book. You bought houses and cars for the dope dealer. Take an investment and make it in your life. Turn your life around. It's possible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage. Thanks for allowing me to share, David. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. It's always an honor to do anything for Narcotics Anonymous because this program saved my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. I I'm so appreciative that you've done this. I knew you would have a powerful message. For me personally, when we were in meetings, you scared me. You were very, what I thought was abrasive, but I've come to learn that it's because you care. It's because you appreciate this way of life and you want others to get it as well. So I thank you again for sharing. This is the second part of the episode where I have some questions from family, friends, and both people inside and outside recovery. So, what are some of the common myths and misconceptions about addiction, in your opinion?
You know, one thing about addiction is that, I don't know, I think society is more geared to hearing stuff like AA because AA is so acceptable, you know, because everybody drinks. And I still feel today that the myth about the addiction part is that some people are taken aback about how could you? Why couldn't you just do Nancy Reagan, just say no? Why couldn't you just have willpower? Well, people don't understand once you cross that fine line, once you become a pickle, you can't go back to being a cucumber,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And won't you just have one drink? See, when I have one drink, I take off.
Off to the races.
Yeah, everybody else go home and go to sleep, and I'm a week later or until I get silver bracelets put on my arms, I can't stop. So, people got the misconception that, I thought it was a down in the gutter addict, but I had a sponsor told me, go home, look in the mirror, and you'll see what the addict look like.
Mm-hmm. That's deep.
Yeah.
You've been living this way for a long time. I think it's 27 years?
October 11th, be 27 years.
So what have you found challenging to do clean? Something that, you used to do before and then you did it during your addiction. And now that you're living this way clean, what have you found challenging to do clean? Is it going to a dance? Is it, being on a boat? Is it, what would be something challenging for you to do clean today that is something that, has affected you?
Well, early on, I remember that it was an identity crisis because everything I did getting high. And when I took the drugs away, some of the courage that I had went away. I remember I used to go to the mall by myself, and I felt very uncomfortable walking in the mall because I felt like I didn't have no self-esteem. I had very low self-esteem, and but today I can go anywhere I want to go. Do anything I want to do. I'm no longer locked up in a 1-2 square block radius as I used to be in my addiction. I can go to the dance, but I had to get to a point where I felt comfortable. I had to set some boundaries for myself. I can't be around people that use.
Mm-hmm.
I me and clubs really don't have nothing in common. The same hustle that I had when I was out there in my addiction, I just brought it into recovery and changed it into a better way, into another manner. And I still hustle today in my business.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to me today staying clean than it was for me getting high.
Really?
It was a job getting high. I mean, it was an everyday grind, and
Worrying about the next one.
worry about the next one. I didn't have no money. How I was going to get it, but today, man, I've learned some things, how to save my money, see, because when I got here, I had no credit. One day I had bad credit, I had no credit. And when nobody gave me nothing, man. So I remember buying about $150 TV and paying on that at this furniture company. And I went from there to where I'm at today with over 800 credit score.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah, for me, going to movies, that was something hard because every time I saw a movie, I was high.
Yeah.
So coming out of the treatment center that I was at, when we were going to movies, I felt agitated. I couldn't sit straight. But today, I can see movies. So I see where being in recovery allows you to build up so that those challenges that I had in early recovery, I'm still in early recovery, but I'm getting there, and I'm slowly starting to be able to do things that I did during my addiction, traveling, like I just said, movies, eating, and going out to nice meals, because I did all these things high for so long that doing them clean, I didn't know how to act, didn't know how to enjoy. And now, I'm slowly getting to there. I appreciate things like that more.
Right. One thing that I used to talk about early on when I came into recovery was that I talked about it in meetings because it was relevant. Because sex went better with drugs. And without the drugs, my thought was, how long would I last? Will I be able to please her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a great example.
Stuff like that, man.
Yep.
That was weird. You know what I mean? But I got past that. It wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was. But
yeah, we see that quite often. It's not always as big of a deal as we thought it would be.
Right.
So one of the other pieces of the program that is central is finding your higher power. So what are some of the different approaches for you to finding a higher power? Some of your personal experiences connecting to one, how did you get to that point? Did you come in with an understanding of a higher power, or did that build, during your addiction and then into recovery? Or was it work when you were in recovery to get there?
When I was a kid, right, my mom used to always send me to church. And, I used to hear all these things like you're going to be cast into the lake of fire, and if you do bad, and I remember, because I stayed right across the street from the church, and I remember being in the basement. And that was one of the scariest places for me, to be in the basement with the lights off in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Purely petrified. And but listening to these preachers and hearing stuff, I became to feel like, I was less than. I would never be forgiven. But I find out through coming through Narcotics Anonymous, I can get a God of my understanding, and I talk to him just like I'm talking right now. I found out that I have a God that has infinite chances. Because if he only gave me one chance, I wouldn't be here today. I remember going to this flea market, and this lady asked me, "Sir, would you like to buy this God box?" And I said, "That box is too small for my God." Because I have more than one. I've been forgiven so many times, not one time, not two times, 100 or more chances. Forgiving God. I found out that there's a loving God, an understanding God, a patient God. I have the ability to either choose and believe in God or not. Narcotics Anonymous don't force God on anybody. It says a higher power. Whatever you believe in, even if it's a light switch, cutting on the water, or whatever when you first get in. But we hoped.
A doorknob. That's the one I kept hearing.
Yeah. We hope that you find a God of your understanding. That's why in Narcotics Anonymous we have no, when people talk about an individual God, we cut that off, because this program was based on the other fellowship, the chapter to the agnostic, the atheist. Anybody can recover,
Mm-hmm.
in this program. And I just opened up, man, and realized that I'm not God, and I didn't get myself through this. I didn't do this by myself. I did it with a program of Narcotics Anonymous and the God of my understanding. Now, how you get there, that's a personal decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can't nobody do it for you. I think the first 3 steps, can't nobody do it for you.
Yep.
You know, I came to believe. You know, that's a personal thing. And
For me, I grew up in, I wouldn't say a religious household. It was just culturally. So I'm Jewish, and we grew up with it being our culture and not necessarily believing deeply in a God. You know, it was just you went through these steps. You did what was expected. You know, you had your bar mitzvah. For me, you went to Sunday school. These were things you just did, and you didn't have to believe in a God. At least it wasn't imparted on me. So my first 4 years of recovery, I did it without an understanding of a higher power. And only recently, only actually since January, did I take someone's advice and I do something completely different for me. I hit my knees. He told me to hit your knees every morning and say your gratitude. You don't need to know what you're saying it to, just show gratitude. And I do that. And I'm slowly starting to talk to something. You know, I don't exactly know what I'm talking to, but doing it makes me kind of believe that I'm talking to something, that there is a higher power for me. And it was such a struggle at first with the 4 years of recovery, doing the 12 steps, to gloss over that not having a higher power. It was very hard to just skip that part. It felt like I wasn't really doing the steps. I still did the step work. I still worked with my sponsor, but I kind of was missing a key ingredient. So now that I've started to build that, I think I have a new appreciation for the program, for the 12 steps, and it might be worthwhile for me to start from scratch again, do the steps again, but this time slowly having that higher power.
right. Have you completed all the steps?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, look at it with a. That's why, you know, we suggest that you do the steps over and over and over, just like the onion, peeling the onion. First time you do the step work, you kind of like gloss over stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you stay clean, the more you remember things. It's like doors become open, like, damn,
I totally forgot I did that.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I remember I had New Jersey, I wound up getting my retirement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I smoked it up. You know what happened to it? I smoked it up, right? And I remember I came to Florida and in recovery, I went back to New Jersey to get my retirement money. I went there and people said, "You got that money a long time." Oh boy, I tell you,
So,
things I forget.
so another one, and this one I find a real good one. It's aha moments, the breakthroughs that changed everything. You know, what was your? It sometimes comes when you hit your bottom. So you hit a certain point in your life and go, things must change. It's an aha moment. I needed to make a change in my life. For me, it was getting caught. It was, I'm in such despair over what I've caused others and the way that I feel right now. I never want to feel it again. And unfortunately, I did it again. So, you know, I've heard the sayings, and I've heard you say it, that you're not a one key tag wonder.
Mm-hmm.
So neither am I. And, you know, it was a bottom that I hit, and I had an aha moment. And it was the second one that really took. And I've also had aha moments in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
times where where the program has shined the light on things. That traveling with my wife to a city and feeling the breeze on my face, that was an aha moment that my life is so much better than it was when I was using. So for you, can you give me an example of both an aha moment when you hit your bottom and life had to change, and then an aha moment that during recovery, that this way of life is worth living?
Right. My aha moment, man, was like I said, when I was at that therapeutic community, and I found out that my brother that has passed. I didn't find out through a phone call. I found out on a learning experience when I was talking about shoveling that compost from one pit to another. I was laying in the middle of the dorm, and someone called out my name, and I knew it was my brother.
Really?
He had passed, and that's when I knew. And I didn't leave that facility when I was on that learning experience. That's when I knew, something got to change.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot continue to live this way of life. You cannot continue to live like this. There's more for you than what I was going through. I knew I was better. I knew I was different. I wanted something different. But it's just like praying to God and asking God for stuff, but ain't willing to do the footwork.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that opportunity at that facility. Did this thing called a probe, and I said, "Fuck it. What have I got to lose?" I shared everything in that probe, every nasty, devious, conniving, insidious, anything that I could possibly think of at that particular point in my life. I shared it with a group of people. And I became free. I no longer had to carry that burden with me of the secrets, and I look back at it when the people who was in that facility, they didn't. And I really don't know, but three of the people, the 145 people that was there when I was there, they're still clean today.
Wow.
The other aha moment in recovery was that I remember going to, I was this addict that was locked in a 2-block radius. And I felt like if I came out of that radius, I was like an alien. And I think where it hit me was I was in Paris.
Really?
Yeah, like, damn.
How'd I get here?
How'd I get here? This guy who was stuck, eating at the dumpsters and sleeping on the bridges, and somebody was on my piece of cardboard that was territorial. You had to get up my fucking cardboard, and shit like going to Hawaii.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about being in meetings on the beach in Hawaii.
There's this meeting called the 12 Coconuts. There's 12 coconut trees, and they had a meeting in the middle of the 12 coconut trees.
That's amazing.
That's a man.
So
I was on the right track.
So as far as when you came out, one of the things that is in the 12 steps is making amends. And that's a lot for you, as well as sometimes for others. What was a challenge you faced in rebuilding trust with family, friends, people on the outside, if you will?
Early on in recovery, one of my biggest amends was to my brother, but I couldn't make him to him. He was gone. So they gave me a suggestion in the fellowship to go to his gravesite. I didn't write the letter. I just went to visit him every other year and put a medallion at his tombstone, put it down in the ground in front of the tombstone. There's a lot of them there now, And but because I felt remorse, shame, and guilt, and I felt like that's the only place I could go early on. I wasn't deserving enough to go on a vacation. Deep, that amends that I had to make. You know, so about the fifth or sixth year, I stopped going every other year because I needed to live.
And he'd want you to live.
Yeah, he want me to live. Another amends, I felt like I needed to make amends to my mom. So my mom was buried, and back in the day they did the tombstones in concrete, and concrete eventually fades. So I put a marble tombstone for my mom. That means that I'm making that. Then the other means I go to National Cemetery in Bushnell and talk to my dad from time to time. Memorial Day, Veterans Day. Those are men's, there ain't too many family members I can make amends to. Other men's, I don't go in people's stores and steal no more. I help somebody in recovery. That's one of the biggest amends that I could possibly make. And the other amends is that, when I was sent back to the Department of Correction, they always said I was a menace to society, and it was sending me back to the Department of Correction. So I try to be a better human being. I try to, like when I cut my yard, I'll go up and down the street and, be a part of productive, constructive member of society again. Be responsible, man.
So people have seen you change.
Yeah. I've seen the change. And I'm not so much worried about what other people see in me today. What's important to me is that I have a relationship with my daughter and my grandkids. I got a second chance to be a parent again with my grandkids. I was just talking to my daughter this morning about I need to take them somewhere before the summer's over with. And the summer school will be right back in no time soon. Yep. So we was talking this morning about doing something, taking them somewhere. Be a productive member and do what a father is supposed to do. Do what a grandfather is supposed to do. And there's nothing more touching than to hear your youngest grandkid, pop, pop. Man, you make him want to walk on air.
There you go. I mean, have you had anyone that knew you while you were using that still refuses to trust you?
Yeah, I remember this girl, right, up in Altoona, Pennsylvania. We used to go to church all the time, and I remember I got baptized, and me and her, even after get baptized, me and her would smoke a joint after I got baptized. I got baptized twice, and like I say, one is too many, 1,000 is never enough, right? But I got her involved in using crack, church girl. And I got baptized to try to get her back the second time. And because that was the first time I got baptized in Tallahassee. And I seen on Facebook, I Googled, put a name in, and bam, she popped up. And I sent her a friend request, and she didn't respond back, and I understood that everybody that don't come back, but I have a whole lot of other people who I was associated with over the years who didn't turn their back on me. And they still a part of my life. But that one, I focused on it for about a year. But they told me to let it go.
Yep.
I let it go.
Let what is the phrase? Let go and let God.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I could see where, so this is one of the ones that hasn't allowed you to make amends. It isn't receptive to it. So it just gets stuck in your head, and then you obsess over it, because that's one of the things as addicts that we never get over is obsessive thinking. So once it's like a record that keeps playing over and over with that same scratch, it's hard to get out of that groove.
Right. Instead of focus on the people who are receptive, we focus on the one that is not receptive.
Absolutely. For me, I was fortunate to make amends to my family. And I still get a sense of, I don't know how to describe it, but you get that butterfly in your chest and that warm feeling when my parents tell me that they love me and are so proud of me when it comes time for my anniversary. That, that's huge. I'm so appreciative of that. And that kind of gets to the next one. It's the role of gratitude. So if one of the things, like I just mentioned, was hitting my knees and saying my gratitude. What has been the importance of gratitude in recovery, and how has it helped you to stay clean?
Gratitude for me, man, is real simple. It's like coming in the house, cut the light switch on, go in the toilet and got toilet paper. I got over 100 pair of sneakers because I remember when I was out there, I had a bicycle with no brakes. And I used to always stop with my shoes, my sneakers, and I used to always have a hole up underneath the bottom of them.
Mm-hmm.
Man, somewhere to stay, somewhere where nobody can tell me to get the hell out of, being able to go to a meeting, man, and carry the message that someone may hear, a message of hope and a promise of freedom. Any addict can lose his desire and find a new way to live. I think that's one of the greatest gifts that has been bestowed upon me because I treasure my clean date greater than I treasure my birth date.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very mindful of that, man, and I want everybody to be able to make this. But I know that many people are called, but few choose to stay.
Nope. Unfortunately.
And people are still dying from the horrors of this disease. And I cannot pick in a meeting who won't make it and who not can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of sponsees over the years. And it bothers me that none of them made it a year.
Wow.
None of them.
Yeah, I think for me and my sponsor, he said that I was the first one to complete the 12 steps.
Right.
That's amazing to me. I mean, as long as you guys have been doing it, the disease is so pervasive, and not everyone gets it.
One thing I learned about recovery, man, is called consistency. Be consistent in whatever you do. Be open-minded to other people's thoughts and ideas. I'll be sitting at a meeting and I'll share something, then someone come behind me and share something. And I'll say, damn, why you a smart ass and think of that? You know what I mean? But I know this. If you ain't got more clean time than me today, you won't have more clean time than me, because I'm not giving up my clean time for nothing, no thing, no situation, because anything that I thought I can get high over, I've experienced it.
That's true.
So,
I'm scared. I'm honestly scared about those things. And, I know that the key is to stay with the people in recovery. It's in good times, it's easy to forget them. And if you don't have them set up when the bad times come, you don't have that support.
right.
And, that's why I still, I still go to meetings. I still am connected with my sponsor and my sponsee brothers. It's not as much as I'd like it to be, but, life shows up sometimes, and, you do as much as you can. So you mentioned lose the desire to stop using. So this is kind of a practical issue. Do you still have triggers and cravings?
No. I had a thorough ass whooping.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I pick up, everything I've accomplished over the years will be gone. I don't think I would survive, because it'll be a fire sale after I spend up all the money that I saved. See, because I don't have a 401k, I got an 8K, because I'm in business for myself. So, and I'm proud of what I have saved up for my retirement. And I don't know what I'll do in retirement, because I'm a workaholic. But one thing the thing is about being humble. Stay humble. Because I never want to act like I'm better than anybody. I remember this guy told me a long time ago, I went to this meeting in Old Wax Detox on Nebraska and Sly. And this guy was in detox, and he came up, sat beside me, and I got up and moved. He said, let me tell you something. You're no better than that guy.
Mm-hmm.
When you think that you're better than the newcomer coming in the room, you're in a bad place. And it always stuck with me that I need to stay humble. You know, I'll drive my truck better than I'll drive my Audi. Because it doesn't, that don't make me.
No.
You know, that don't make me today, you know. So I'll talk to any newcomer. I'll try to help any newcomer. If they want and show the willingness and the desire to change their life, I'll be there. I'll help. I'll pick up the phone when you call me.
Mm-hmm.
But I realize that I can't force this on nobody.
Right.
You know, they got to want it. I can't want it for more than they want it for themselves.
Unfortunately.
You know.
If it were that easy, we'd have a lot more recovering addicts.
Yes, we would.
So when did that happen for you? When did you get to a point where you didn't fear a relapse, where the craving stopped?
You know, I don't know where it stopped.
Okay.
I don't know when the obsession and the compulsion left. I can't put a time. I can't put a date. All I know is through my sincere prayer to the God of my understanding, it went away. And I have no fear of using. Because I played the tape all the way through. You know.
What's going to happen if I use?
I lose the love of the relationship I built with my daughter, my grandkids, my sister. See, I don't focus so much on what other people are doing no more. I don't wear a shirt like I'm Mr. NA. No. I realize that other people do what other people do. When I go in a restaurant, people drink.
Mm-hmm.
I've had girlfriends over the years that they drink over out to dinner. It don't trigger nothing in me.
Right.
See, because I know that 1 or 2 million thousand is enough. That's
Yes, sir.
Ingrained in my brain. You know, if I be around, I don't even be around family members today. The ones that I do have here in Tampa, my cousins, because they're about that life. And they ain't about that life.
Right.
So we really don't have no relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see them at a funeral or something like that, or a picnic or something like that. But other than that, nah, I ain't going to hang out with you. And I set boundaries for myself today. I set them early on, and now this is becoming ingrained. I don't want to get high. I like my life today.
Yeah.
Without the use of dope, you know.
So it just happened. You don't know when, don't know where.
Don't know where. It just happened.
I hope I get there, because one of my drug of choice was, or one of my drugs of choice is pot, and they're everywhere now. Right. There are stores that I drove from North Tampa to South Tampa on Dale Mabry, and I counted 13 dispensaries. And it's going to become legal. Recreation is going to become legal. So so yes, you can buy alcohol everywhere. So it's similar.
That's a drug.
So it's similar if that was your drug of choice, that you're tempted by it. But man, do I smell? You don't smell alcohol really. You smell pot everywhere.
Now, when I went to Vegas on a bucket list trip, because I wanted to see the Grand Canyon and the Hoover Dam, Vegas, it's legal. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is show your ID that you're over a certain age.
Right.
And you just buy it. People smoking it everywhere. That don't bother me, see, because I know where I come from. I know where the disease of addiction took me, And
yeah, when I'm by myself and I smell it, it does trigger me. Right. The only time it doesn't is if we're at a meeting and the tattoo shop beside us is smoking, when I've got the fellowship around me. Mm-hmm. So I've got people with time, and I feel a sense of calm. So I mean that's another point, is the role of fellowship in recovery and the importance of it. And something that I've learned and something that's been said is the meeting before and the meeting after the meeting can be just as important.
Right.
You learn so much more about people and more practical points. Because if you're in a meeting, and it's kind of like the discussions we're having now. So in a meeting, you don't crosstalk. So there's not that exchange. There's not that discussion that happens.
Right.
Discussion happens before and after the meetings. So, and I know that the fellowship for you helped you understand yourself. And one of the things that I keep hearing about is there was this place, one of the first meeting places. It was John Calvin.
Right.
And the way that the fellowship acted then, there was the dog pound, there was dances, there was this all kind of romantic notion of recovery that I don't see. I don't see that part of fellowship. What was that world like?
Well, what happened was, back during those days, everybody came to John Cabin on a Friday night. If you celebrating clean time, you did that. There wasn't all these meetings that we have now. There was no Brandon. There was no all these other meetings that pop up because of resentment and a coffee pot. People started meeting on the resentment and coffee pot and started a whole lot of meetings. But we had unity back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Frickner just recently, and it wasn't the same.
Why do you think?
That unity wasn't there, like it was back in the day. I don't understand. I don't know why. Brandon thinks that they're different. We got the Ed Hardy meetings, we got the Starbucks meetings, and people think that they're better than, but people get high at all meetings. Every meeting you go to, there's somebody that relapse.
Yep. That was me for a while.
Right. I got high with everybody, whether you came from out of my neighborhood, you came into the neighborhood, and you wanted to look for some dope, I'll get the dope and we get high together. I'm just the same way in recovery. I like the meetings that reminds me of me coming into the fellowship. That's why I go to 545 on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think people pretend at the other meetings and they want to be all this in a bag of chips and a change, or they want to be a guru, or because they throw out the clean time all the time. And I've been around 35 years or 40 years, and everything that I say is the gospel. No, it ain't.
No.
You're not just like me.
Mm-hmm.
You do shit that I don't do, but I may do some shit that you don't do. You know what I mean? But we all, when we come to a meeting, man, we all got our character defects and shortcomings. And there's things that we don't want people to find out that we do.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fellowship it is what it is. I guess it's evolving, and with this microwave fellowship.
Where do you see it going? Not in a good place. It doesn't seem like things are getting better. I wonder if it's cyclic. So this has happened before, and what happens is it comes straight back. Right. And I don't know the history that well to know if, in the early 70s, if there was still that, say it got disconnected then, and then in the 80s it got strong again. And, I don't know how that works.
They told me that Narcotics Anonymous can't survive without me, but I can't survive without Narcotics Anonymous. But I carry the message the way that I got it. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I know how to carry it. And
I appreciate that.
Right. I know that it's in the moment, in the meeting, because I was just sitting when I was in there sharing this evening, this afternoon. It's not like how in the moment on the topic, mm-hmm. or some people share something. And I share my experience, strength, and hope. I think it's different that way than it is telling the story. I think it's more better open discussion than it is telling the story. Telling the story, you get to know the individual and the things that they went through. But open discussion meetings are the shit to me. Mm-hmm. The hug is something else. Like I got a thing over there where the circle of friends. someone gave me that early in recovery. It's like some people holding around it. That's what Narcotics Anonymous is, a circle of friends,
Mhm.
you know. And great thing that happened to me. When I decided to allow it to happen.
Right.
You know, you can go to meetings, don't mean that's gonna keep you clean. You can know the readings backward and forth, that don't mean it's gonna keep you clean. People come to meetings on a regular basis, but they don't change. And the program requires active change of attitude and behaviors. Why still come somewhere when you ain't changing? You're doing the same thing over and over again, you know? Why come to a program that you're not changing, but it requires change?
Doesn't make sense.
No, don't make sense at all.
So the last thing is looking ahead, the bright future in recovery, beyond your wildest dreams. What's in it for you? Do me a favor and paint a picture of a bright future in recovery, the possibilities and rewards of clean time. Where do you want it to go?
Man, I can tell you, when I got here, I wanted the house, I wanted the car, I wanted the girl, I wanted the clothes. But I found out it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's the journey. Enjoy the journey. I don't know what the destination is going to wind up being. All I know is if I can continue to take one step at a time, don't get high, be open-minded to other people's thoughts and ideas, and a willingness to continue to work on myself. The results are endless. Like I was talking about the Paris and Hawaii and the Dominican Republic and Jamaica, those places I've been for addicts like me, live the life that I live.
Being able to take your grandkids somewhere before the end of the summer.
Yeah.
That's beyond your wildest dreams.
I was getting high, there wouldn't be no money to take. You know what I mean?
And you wouldn't have that connection. No. You wouldn't be with them.
No. I see it, man.
Did you see yourself being a grandfather?
No. I didn't see myself living past the stem. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I have to, sometimes, in this journey, man, you've been around for so long, you have to pinch yourself and remind yourself from where you come from. Mm-hmm. Wonderful thing, man. But what I like to see, I like to see when I came around, you had to have a year clean time in order to chair a meeting. Yeah. You had to know how to chair a meeting because chairing a meeting is very important. Back when I came around, they would cut people off.
Really?
They wouldn't call on a person just because they raised their hand.
No.
Today, anybody, I mean.
And unfortunately, and it's something that I'm not sure, I kind of look to you guys for the help because in our home group, we just decided that if you've just got some clean time, you can chair a meeting. It's because we don't have people to chair a meeting.
Right.
So I don't know how you find that balance. You need the door open with meetings, and you can't find people with clean time to chair. Right. What do you do?
I don't know. That just like that guy. It was a guy that I keep sharing with people. See, people get caught up in the personalities. They want social acceptability, don't equal recovery. Mm-hmm. Just because a person say he want to chair a meeting, that's just like one guy who was doing a 10 o'clock meeting, he wanted to OD at his job. He didn't have enough clean time to even chair a meeting in the first place.
Right.
And I shared that. They continued to let him do that, and he wound up dying. See, when I came around, people told you about your ass instead of your face. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that helped a lot. You say that now, all people get offended.
Yeah.
How dare you say that about me? You know what I mean? If you ain't connected with this crew or that crew, you're not in the upper echelon of recovery. I ain't no fucking upper echelon. Because when we come in the door, man, everybody's supposed to put those titles to the side.
We don't care who you are, what your connections were, what you did in the past.
Or what job you got. You know, that shit don't mean nothing. Don't care about how much time you've been around. We're all on an equal footing when we hit that door. We're always covering addicts, trying to stay clean one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But
But yeah, so I don't know how you can chair a meeting. We just there was an issue where someone was unfortunately talking, mentioning drugs by name, which is a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of said that alcohol wasn't a drug, which is, we literally say alcohol is a drug. I mean, we literally say that before every meeting.
Right.
And to her, it wasn't. And she was chairing a meeting and said it. But we don't have people to chair meetings, so I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. It just doesn't feel right.
Right. See, we have a group of people who think they run some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they really don't have a lot of clean time. And they make decisions based upon personality. See, but they told me that we need to tell people what they need to hear instead of what they want to hear. But so many people get caught up into being socially acceptable. They won't tell a person what they really need to hear because they want to be socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be liked. This ain't about being liked. It's about saving each other's ass, saving each other's lives. It ain't about, I can't tell you that because you might get offended. You know, a young girl, she just got to get clean and she be talking about she want to get high and she want to sabotage shit. Man, I just say, man, look, you can't be around nobody that's getting high. Then they high, and I know they sponsor, know that they messing with somebody that's using, but won't tell them that.
Really?
Yeah, because they want to be liked. Don't want to be on creating no waves. Shit, you couldn't come around to John Calvin back in the day without that bullshit. With that bullshit, no. I'm glad how it was when I got here. That's why I still feel the same way and carry the message the same way. I ain't about not offending nobody.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't about that. It's about us living life one day at a time without the use of dope. And if your feelings get hurt, so be it.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
So, man, I can't thank you enough for being here today and sharing what you have. It means so much to me to have you share from the heart. Again, thank you. I love you, man.
You're welcome, David. Thank you for having me.
And to those listening, much love.